Welcome to Hometown Movies. My name is Michael Kelly, and tonight we're going to be talking about some of the work that's being done, not in the theater or on video cameras at home, but rather on Comcast Cablevision, the patron saint of us all here that brings you this program along with many others. Our guest tonight is Steve Hester. Steve is the producer and director of a number of programs here on Comcast Cablevision, and in particular the program Take No Prisoners. Where did you start doing video and film?
Well, actually with the United States Army back in 1982. It's a real funny story. I fell into film because I was a physical wimp. When I got out of high school, I started skydiving. Joined the Army, thought, gee, I can skydive really cheap.
Right.
Military. So
airborne.
So I'm in boot camp, and I flunked my airborne physical by 6 push-ups. And so they reclassified me. Gave me a book about this thick, said pick 5 jobs out of it. If there's one that matches, we'll give it to you. And I was in Denver, Colorado at my training base before I knew that I was an 84 Charlie, a motion picture camera operator. So didn't know what an f-stop was, had no idea, didn't know how to focus a camera, but it worked out really nice.
Well, you got one of those skills they always talk about in the TV commercials.
Right, absolutely. I'm a shining model of United States Army training commercials. Yeah.
What was it like? What kind of training did you have?
We started out shooting lots of 35 millimeter still film, and went directly into shooting 16 millimeter. Extensive training. We shot black and white. We shot color. We learned to use all of the filters. We learned to edit everything by hand. Scraping, spitting on the emulsion and scraping it off and gluing all the film together. And we went through several weeks of audio editing school where we had to learn to be DJs and take large paragraphs and cut them up so that people were saying things that they didn't necessarily say before. So it was excellent training in school itself.
Do you feel that, for somebody entering the field, do you think that really was good, solid technical training?
Absolutely. The military it's definitely not for everybody, but in my case it worked. Anybody that is interested in film or video, it's highly intensive training. It's all hands-on. A lot of employers in the field nowadays will take years of hands-on experience over years of college. The college tends to be textbook and not as much field problem solving within. So when I came out of the military, I know a lot of employers were happy with that. Not to mention the discipline and the valuable skills that come from that.
Speaking of somebody who's hired people, the honorable discharge does count. It doesn't mean you probably will show up for work in the morning.
Yes, it does.
What kind of work did you do after training? What kind of field work did you do?
I was stationed at Fort Hunter Liggett in California, and there was a field laboratory. We did documentary filming and later videotaping when they decided that film got a little expensive, of testing, evaluation of weapon systems and battle tactics. And they had these huge, gigantic battles that they ran in the field that were all came down to a screen that looked like a video game. Tanks would fire, and you'd see a line go across, and either this tank got hit or not with lasers and such. A lot of live firing of weapons. And our documentaries didn't really give conclusive evidence of the experiment itself, but more or less told how the experiment was conducted and what mattered or what means they used to gather the data. It was pretty fun. A lot of aerial photography. That was one of my biggest fun spots there. A lot of riding on vehicles, and live fires were the best. It was great to set off in little cement bunkers off to the side, and watch missiles come in and just blow tanks to smithereens. Always made for a good shot. It was a photographer's paradise.
I always thought back when the video games really hit, you know, back in early 70s, mid 70s, I looked at that and I thought, the kids that are now freaking out over Pac-Man and are today Mario Brothers or whatever probably Ninja Turtles or whatever the video games are now that people are interested in, there was this sense on the part of adults that, oh, this is terrible, they're wasting their time and all. And I looked at that and I thought, these guys are going to be the Marines of the next generation. I mean,
Absolutely.
The next war is going to be fought on video screens, and these guys are going to have all the reflexes down.
Well, absolutely. They a lot of weapon systems that they're using nowadays are just a little bit more complex video games, and it's all hand-eye coordination. They never see the enemy with a lot of systems. They look on a screen and they see an image and they zone in on it and blast away. So they're not completely trash. I don't want my 7-year-old to hear that. But,
Really, your 17-year-old, by guys, then train him on it. You've worked in both film and video. Do you have an opinion on the difference?
Well, gee, there's no question. There's a huge difference. Film is complete saturation. In color, there's no lines, no dots. As in video, it's a much more beautiful image. But gee, you know, video it's great. It's instant. You record it, you can get right back. You can edit. You don't have to wait for it to go to the lab and wait several weeks possibly to get it back. No more rubbing saliva on the edges of the film and scraping that off and gluing it together. Of course, you know, with hot splicers and things, it's a little easier than that. They just taught us the hard way to do it so that we would appreciate the easy ways. But yeah, video it's great, especially for cable access things as we're here. It would be difficult for people to come in and do access work. If they had to learn to use 16mm film, I mean, anybody can come in and learn to use a video camera just to operate it and create shows such as this one and Take No Prisoners and some of the other cable access programs.
What's it like working with people in the community access system where you're dealing with people who are not professional? They rather come in with some ideas and they want to see if they can get them down.
Well, actually, it's great. The people within television, you work with people that are within television constantly, it's good and fun, but when you have people coming with little or no television experience, it doesn't alleviate the fact that they bring these great ideas with them, and absolutely wonderful ideas, and they're just hungry to find out, how can I put these ideas onto tape, and how can I make these viewable by the public? And really, there's so many ideas that come in from people in the community. I'm so busy running equipment and things of that nature, sometimes it just doesn't leave a lot of time to stop and think about, you know, the next project, and let's think of a really good creative one. People just bring them in by the droves to the access centers, and it's like a smorgasbord for me and some of the other access volunteers to just get to work on all these great projects.
Can you think of an idea that was a lot of fun to do?
John Katarski, one of our producers here for this show, started doing the jazz shows down at Buckham Alley. Those were great fun. Those were, and it was the Players and Payers show. And the concept of it was really neat. You had all the old jazzsters in town and talking back, you know, the times in the 30s and giving a little story and giving a little song and a little story and a little song. And that was a great show to shoot. I like that one.
How'd you get involved with the Take No Prisoners program?
Well, the guy that I play volleyball with, Tim Hahn, was roommates with Jerry Humphrey, who is one of the co-hosts for WFBE's version of Take No Prisoners.
Yeah, that's the public radio show.
Right, and he does that with Ben Hamper. And
I know I have a public radio show, Folk, Bluegrass, and Beyond, that comes on. That we're separated from Take No Prisoners by Afro Pop, but you know, we always promote the show that's coming up later on in the evening. Yeah.
And I like music of all types. And there's really not. When I was in California for a few years in the military, there was quite a bit of alternative music or new wave music on some of the stations. A lot of it sounds like rock and roll to me, but that they like to call it alternative music. There was quite a bit of it out there, and I grew fond of some of it. When I moved back to Flint, there was really not much of any media coverage for that type of music. Ben and Jerry were the only source I saw in town of people playing that kind of music. And I think my favorite type of programming is shooting music of whatever type it might be. Jerry Humphrey asked me for an application to our workshop, and I asked him, well, what do you want to work on? And he noted that he did take no prisoners and thought he wanted to do something with rock, but rock bands, but he wasn't really sure exactly how he wanted to do it. And I thought, well, you're public radio and we're public access television. It just seems that that we should be able to mesh something together, and everybody had the same goals of just promoting some music that didn't get a whole lot of media attention. And nobody was really in it for the money. So we hit it off and we scheduled a show, and they've just kind of gone since then. We intersperse those with little talks with the bands. They see the bands on stage, and this way they get to kind of see what the guys might have to say about themselves and what they do.
You guys, you spend time in strip bars?
I don't.
Is that part of the rock and roll lifestyle?
I did.
He won't admit it, but we all do it.
Yeah.
Will you still work in a strip?
Actually, I dance in strip bars for the dancers and the bouncers, and
He makes some good money too.
I do. I make drink money in there, and I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
It's bad. His girlfriend won't let him.
Let me in.
That's a bad image for the band too. You guys are kind of clean cut, you know.
Yeah, we
kinda
try and
clean
put
cut
off a
guys,
real
and
positive
then
image.
It's a
I don't know if
collegiate.
you're not having
it's a
fun.
collegiate crowd you're trying to pull in here.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a
Hence
doubt, a
the,
collegiate crowd.
Michigan
Anyone that's willing to
sweatshirt.
drink from a douchebag.
Diet squirt.
Diet
so I kind of-
squirt.
Diet squirt.
We're also
Drink diet squirt from a douchebag. Is
We're also really
folks.
we're also really trying to show a politically aware attitude.
Yes.
Our interview segments are not really conventional.
God, things are happening in the studio. Get this on camera. So, Paul, who do you like listening to?
Oh, well, birthday party, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Big Black.
Big Black. Big Black. Are you getting this, Steve? We're getting a reaction too, you know.
This is a
Paul.
No,
Big
no, wait,
Black,
no. Nice
Paul.
strong arm.
Let's go to go.
I like country bop.
Let's go to some footage of Smiling Sacrifice.
Let's go.
We try to be anti-aesthetic, I guess, as far as we use multiple cameras on a shoot like this to pick up nice shots. I do a lot of shows that we cut with multiple cameras such as this, and we wanted to be as much unlike any other program as we could be, so we made a rule of just using one camera for our interviews, even if we had 8 people in the studio, and just dollying it.
You just do a pan back and forth among people?
Well, we make sure that we have dollies on the cameras, and we roll it like madmen across the studio, and literally run over the interviewee's feet.
Over here. Steve, no, thanks a lot.
And it makes for some fun shots, and again, it may not be aesthetically correct or whatever that may be, but we think it makes it look different enough for our taste that it suits the type of music that we're shooting. And
But when you deal with experimental television or film or music or anything, what you're doing is expanding the parameters. Techniques that were considered rather unconventional and very unpleasant in the past, now are just taken for granted. For example, I can remember back in the silent picture days when they showed a close-up. It's the first time they ever showed a close-up. And they showed somebody, head and shoulders, and the audience booed. They said they started to call out, "Show us their feet, show us their feet," because they had always seen a full frame shot. And when someone did a close-up, it violated the rules. And very likely things that you're just playing with now, things that you just try because let's just do this for the heck of it. A certain number of those things that come out of the experimental, the play of video work, because so much of video work is work. And when people play with it, they create things, and a few of those things turn out to work. They come back and they're used.
The difference with some of the early film pioneers that you may be referring to is that I think they were actually progressing, and I think that we intentionally regress on our program. We consider that a fun way to do it.
Well, there's sort of a style, I think, in a lot of the alternative music now that because commercial music is so orchestrated and complex, and you have 78 track recorders and 400 people recording on every track, and it's there's 7,000 edits in a 3.5 minute pop song. That sense of sort of raw simplicity, which a lot of the I guess new wave or punk music, which was the last new wave, right. A lot of stuff. Talking Heads is a good example of a group that had a very stripped down, very fundamental sound that later just became mainstream because they were strong enough to carry that sound or that idea forward into, in essence, the whole community.
Well, when we had originally decided to do the bands, we had in the beginning we thought of just doing them in a garage to keynote that these were basically just over being garage bands. They're not superstar bands. Again, I might add that the bands that we do videotape, we do try to use Flint bands. That's our mission, is to seek and destroy as many Flint bands as possible. We make a giant point of that, and there's really some good talent in the Flint area, and some of the bands have just put on, well, all of the bands have put on just excellent performances when we've taped, and been real happy with it. But the garage idea we almost shot in garages when we started. We used Buckham Alley Theater. Not quite a garage, Theater, but it's fairly tiny for a stage. And God bless the people at Buckham Alley. They were really kind to us and let us use the theater. But it was really small for the type of bands we were doing. A lot of the guys like to do forward flips and land on their back and throw their instruments around and possibly run into each other at full gale speed. And we kind of lucked into using the Capitol Theater for our last couple of programs, and it's worked out really nice there. There's just all sorts of room, and the guys can run around, and it makes it a lot more fun. And plus you have the old Gothic from the side camera shots. You have the old Gothic cement pieces on the side of the stage, and it's really attractive.
I can remember working at WFBE when we were doing our shows, and the engineers would talk about when Take No Prisoners was on. Because we were on the same night, so we come in, we do ours, and we sort of catch the engineers at the beginning of their shift, and they were going to end their shift with Ben and the guys on Take No Prisoners. And it was interesting to hear them talk about the calls they get and the people that were relating to the show. And I can remember when I was a kid, back during the Punic Wars, and I can remember laying in bed at night, with the radio on, after I was supposed to be in bed, and listening to jazz shows and folk shows, coming out of the, just out of the blue from Detroit or from D.C. or late at night, you get Nashville or New Jersey. I mean, you get these stations coming in. And there was that real sense of reaching out to another world. There was something else out there. And I think of shows like yours and what they must mean to some of your viewers, for whom that is the only thing out of all this super saturated radio, TV, and recorded entertainment stuff that just flows over our society. That may be the only thing out there that they relate to, that they say, yeah, now that I like. I don't like any of this other stuff, but those guys are demented. I like them, Do you get any kind of feedback from your audience?
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, in a couple of years of doing programming here at Comcast, I've gotten more feedback on this program than almost anything that I've worked on. Mostly it's keep up the good work. It's nice to see. I've gotten some letters and things. People seem to think it's nice to see as they put that side of the arts put on television. Just glad to see somebody putting those type of bands on television. I guess some people just trip through the channels. Most people, as most access programs, they click onto it by accident and say, what in the world is this? Or I caught these guys down at the Capitol Theater last week. What are they doing on television? And they just can't believe it. And they write and they say, gee, I don't know why you guys are doing this, but by all means, keep it up. So again, it's giant fun to know that people like it. And even if I don't know exactly how big the audience is, obviously some of the bands are less mainstream than others, and I guess as long as the people that like that particular band, as long as they like the show, then we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I think there's a desire among some people to have conformity, and there's always the move for censorship, the move for restriction. People will say, well, this show is silly, this is vulgar, we shouldn't do this. But it really creates something that needs to be articulated. It fulfills a role. There has always been that role. The thing is, the rebel of one generation becomes the nostalgia of the next. I'm sure that my parents didn't like them going to hear Benny Goodman concerts. I mean, that swing is the devil's music, And now, old Benny Goodman, that's sweet music for the elevator, And that's how it is each time. And that the kind of role that you are playing, first of all, it's an honorable role with a great history and a great tradition of its own, even though by your very nature you're non-traditional. That's the tradition.
So sometimes I guess that's something that we use to gauge things is if they like it, fine, but if somebody doesn't like it, then maybe that's all the more reason to put it on, because somebody out there has to like it, So, another note I want to make on the program, the same with any other public access program, it's just amazing the volunteerism that you see in any of these programs going together. We've got all the guys here working hard on this program. Nobody's making bucks doing these programs. They're doing it because they like it.
What? You mean I'm not getting paid?
I've got guys that
Somebody lied to me, by gosh.
I've got guys that come out for Take No Prisoners. First of all, there's Troy Farah, from the Capitol Theater. He gives us the building for free, which is just great. Mark Allen, who runs a sound production thing in Flushing, does sound for most of the bands in town. He brings at least equal equipment that I bring on location. On the audio side of things, takes care of the audio, works on it for a couple of days, sets it up the night before, it comes in the next day, running all day on sound checks. All I have to do is plug it in and it's nice. Again, all the volunteers that are guarding people from getting burned on lights or pulling cables to get the camera shots that we need. It's just an incredible amount of volunteerism that goes into the program.
When is Take No Prisoners on, for those who want to see?
Take No Prisoners is on every other Tuesday, as we share some time.
Just like us. Well.
Yes, it is. We share time with John Katarski's slot on Tuesday nights. We run every other Tuesday. We air all of our programming twice, so that if you see it the first time, you like it, get your VCR ready for the second one, 9 p.m. And again, the radio programs at midnight on Saturdays. Be sure to tune into that.
That's on WFBE, which is 95.1 FM.
Yes, listener-supported radio.
In East Central Michigan, service of the Flint Community Schools.
You betcha.
Okay. Well, we've been talking with Steve Hester. I want to mention again that if you're interested in doing some public access programming or taking the workshop on how to handle the equipment, the number is 235-6112. That's Steve Hester at Comcast Cablevision. My name is Michael Kelly, and I want to invite you to call our producer, John Katarski, at 238-2824 if you have some hometown movies that you'd like to bring on the program. And for all the guys on the crew, and especially Drew, whose birthday is today, we want to thank you for being with us tonight, and we'll see you next week.